Hello Leafs Nation, welcome back to your go-to channel, Toronto Maple Leaf News Network. Today we have 4 jam-packed updates about our Maple Leafs that surfaced just a few hours ago. From a bold one-for-one trade pitch involving Bobby McMann, to a veteran Marlies forward signing overseas, to Kyle Dubas' candid comments on the Mitch Marner-Mike Babcock saga, and finally how the latest roster outlook shapes up for the upcoming season. This is the full picture fans need right now. So if being a true Leafs fan is in the blood, do not miss these updates. And before we start, a quick request. If new to the channel, do not forget to like and subscribe so staying in the loop is easy all season long. Update 1. Leafs floated in bold 1-for-1. Bobby McMann for Alexei Toropchenko? Here is the buzz. A fresh trade pitch suggests the Toronto Maple Leafs could swap Bobby McMann for Street, Louis Blues winger Alexei Toropchenko in a straight 1-for-1 deal, aiming to align better with coach Craig Berube's heavy forechecking identity. The concept comes on the heels of a crowded forward group in Toronto, and speculation that McMann might not be locked into an opening night role under Berube's system if camp battles do not go his way. The angle is simple but provocative. Exchange a recent goal scorer for a towering, defensively useful winger with playoff bite who has history with Berube from their time together in St. Louis. Let us unpack why this idea is grabbing attention. First, Toropchenko brings size and utility, standing 6 feet 6 inches, playing both wings, killing plays on the wall, and offering a bottom 6 fit that emphasizes length, reach, and board work, which Berube historically values. Although Toropchenko's past regular season line of 4 goals and 14 assists for 18 points over 80 games reads modest, his postseason step-up, 2 goals and 2 assists in 7 games, points to a style that translates when checking tightens and space becomes scarce. That particular playoff trait is exactly where Toronto wants to harden up after recent springs that demanded more grind, more retrievals, and more net front stubbornness. On the other hand, McMahon's story last year was two-sided. A breakout regular season stretch of 20 goals and 14 assists across 74 games, followed by a scoreless 13-game playoffs that fueled debate about fit and reliability when the ice gets tougher. Analysts like Brian Hayes have openly questioned whether McMahon's physical profile consistently shows up in his game shift to shift, to the point where a healthy scratch on opening night was floated as plausible given Toronto's depth and Berube's preferences for heavier, more punishing wingers. In cap and contract terms, Toropchenko carries a $1,700,000 ticket into unrestricted free agency at season's end, while McMann enters the final year of a 2-year, $2,700,000 deal, both manageable numbers that make a 1-for-1 swap cleaner on the ledger. Philosophically, the pitch fits the Maple Leafs' broader offseason posture after moving Mitch Marner and bringing in players like Nicholas Roy, Matias Maccelli, and Dakota Joshua to diversify roles, add two-way integrity, and tilt toward a playoff-resilient identity. A Toropchenko addition would deepen the bottom 6 with size and forechecking while preserving scoring load for the top-of-lineup stars, whereas keeping McMann bets on him rediscovering regular season, finishing over a full year, and finding a greasier playoff gear. There is an underlying tension the fan base understands. Is it wise to move a 20-goal forward for a lower output checker? Context matters. If McMann projects to bubble status with a risk of being the 13th forward, reallocating his spot to a specialized tool, Berube trusts from experience can tighten the team's nightly identity and penalty kill sturdiness, while freeing lineup clarity around wingers like Matthew Canes, Max Domi, and Matias Maccelli higher in the order. If the Leafs believe they can replace McMann's finishing by committee and gain playoff-suited board battles, the calculus shifts toward the swap. If camp shows McMann driving a line and tracking to repeat 20+, the conversation cools. Either way, it is the kind of surgical, identity-first trade concept that makes sense for where the Maple Leafs want to live stylistically this season. Update 2. Farewell for now. Joseph Blandisi takes his grit and leadership overseas. Sometimes the most impactful departures are not headliners on the National Hockey League roster, but heartbeat players who set standards in the American Hockey League room and ripple that culture up to the big club. That is why today's development matters. Joseph Blandisi is heading overseas to sign with SKA Saint Petersburg in the Kontinental Hockey League, and the move lands with real weight for the Toronto Marlies. By extension, the Maple Leafs development pipeline. Blandisi's game has always been more than the sum of the box score, relentless forechecking, second and third efforts, and a willingness to play inside the hard areas. But even by the numbers, last season painted a complete picture. Over 58 games with the Marlies, he stacked 35 points, 15 goals paired with 20 assists, while posting a +7, chipping in on the man advantage with 3 power play goals, flipping momentum with 3 shorthanded strikes, and bringing an edge with 82 penalty minutes that told the story of a forward who never took a shift off. Those shorthanded tallies, in particular, underscore a trusted role. Coaches do not hand those minutes to passengers. They give them to pros they believe can tilt special teams without blinking. Blandisi's journey adds context to why this exit resonates. Drafted 162nd overall by the Colorado Avalanche in the 2012 National Hockey League entry draft, he carved his path through the Ontario Hockey League with the Owen Sound Attack, the Ottawa 67s, and the Barrie Colts, producing an eye-opening 244 points across 246 games, 108 goals, and 136 assists, while learning the hard-nosed habits that defined his pro career. In the National Hockey League, he logged 101 games with the New Jersey Devils, Anaheim Ducks, and Pittsburgh Penguins, stacking 31 points, 10 goals, and 21 assists, with 5 power play goals and 4 game winners, the kind of contributions that show up in pressure pockets of the schedule. In the American Hockey League, his footprint was even larger. 448 career games across the Albany Devils, Binghamton Devils, San Diego Gulls, Wilkes Barre, and Scranton Penguins, Laval Rocket, and finally the Marlies, delivering 321 points, 126 goals, and 195 assists, along with 38 power play goals, 9 shorthanded markers, 21 game winners, and a sterling +44. All while piling up 664 penalty minutes that speak to a player who consistently finished checks and never cheated his teammates. What does this mean for the Maple Leafs ecosystem right now? First, the Marlies lose a pace setter who models pro habits for young forwards who need to learn how to survive and then thrive. In the grind, think Roni Hirvonen finding his voice down low, Jacob Quillen tracking routes and reading middle ice, or William Villeneuve on breakouts looking for a reliable outlet who will take a hit to make a play. Blandisi's departure creates both a void and an opportunity. A void in leadership and late-game trust, and an opportunity for the next wave to grab penalty kill minutes, move up the pecking order on the power play, and experience high-leverage situations that will accelerate their readiness for the National Hockey League. Second, there is a subtle strategic layer. The Maple Leafs National Hockey League roster is notably deep at forward heading into 2025 and 2026, which can compress call-up lanes unless injuries open doors. Blandisi's move could unclog some of that traffic for prospects to ride the shuttle and taste the pace at Scotiabank Arena when needed. For Blandisi, SKA Saint Petersburg offers a marquee stage, a high-expectation organization, a big market feel, and the chance to play prime minutes in a league that prizes structured team play and physical engagement traits that fit his toolkit. For the Marlies, this is also a culture handoff moment. Who takes the mantle on the penalty kill, who handles tough defensive zone starts, who drags teammates into the fight on back-to-backs when legs are heavy and details get loose. Expect a committee early, but this is an invitation for a voice to emerge. And for the Leafs, moves like this are reminders that the path to a hardened National Hockey League identity runs through development. When the American Hockey League room is strong, call-ups arrive not just with skill, but with standards. Blandisi helped raise those standards. Now the next man up has a blueprint and a vacancy to chase. Update 3. Kyle Dubas breaks silence on Marner. Babcock Firestorm, Bull Blake SIT. Leafs Nation, buckle up because this one dives deep into one of the most controversial stories in modern Maple Leafs history. Former general manager Kyle Dubas has finally opened up about the infamous Mitch Marner, Mike Babcock incident, as well as sharing his perspective on Marner's departure and fresh start with the Vegas Golden Knights. Speaking on the Cam and Strick podcast, just hours ago, Dubas gave candid, measured answers that pull the curtain back on a tense chapter in Toronto hockey. First, Dubas addressed the headline move of this offseason, Marner's sign and trade to Vegas. Marner, drafted 4th overall in the 2015 National Hockey League draft, Dubas' first year in the organization, leaves after a career season of 102 points in the regular season and 13 points in 13 playoff games. Dubas called Marner an awesome person and a wonderful player, noting that while the narrative of a fresh start is easy to buy into, he genuinely hopes the move galvanizes both the Golden Knights and the Leafs. "I'll cheer for him," Dubas said, making it clear there's no bitterness, only the hope for success on both sides. Then came the real bombshell, Dubas' account of the notorious rookie year incident in which Babcock allegedly asked Marner to rank his teammates by work ethic and then revealed the results to some of those very teammates. This move, widely criticized for undermining team trust, had never been publicly discussed by Dubas in detail until now. Surprisingly, Dubas claimed he only learned of it after Babcock's firing in 2019 when the story broke in the media. "When I read the story, I remember talking to Brandon Pridham. We didn't know that it had happened," he said. According to Dubas, then general manager Lou Lamoriello had handled the matter privately with Babcock back when it occurred, and it never came up again until years later. Dubas also took a measured tone when reflecting on Babcock's tenure overall. While many fans might prefer to remember only the negative, Dubas credited Babcock with bringing a tremendous amount of accountability and, unlike anything, preparation habits to the team. Even so, Dubas acknowledged that by November 2019, when the Leafs were sitting at a 9-10-4 record, it had become clear the group would not take the next step under Babcock's leadership, prompting the decision to make a change. The conversation inevitably touched on Babcock's notorious post-Leafs career. For Leafs fans, Dubas' comments provide a rare retroactive lens on a saga that blended organizational politics, player-coach relationships, and the pressure cooker of Toronto's market. It is also a reminder of how far the current Leafs, under Craig Berube, have pivoted culturally, moving from that era's friction to a present-day focus on clarity of role, direct communication, and playoff-oriented toughness. The echoes of the past still shape the present, and hearing Dubas speak so openly paints a fuller picture for the fans who lived through every headline. And that's a wrap, Leafs Nation. That's all 3 of today's breaking updates, delivered fresh and unfiltered. If you're as locked in as we are, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to Toronto Maple Leaf News Network, and turn on those notifications. That way, you don't just follow the Leafs, you live the Leafs. Every day, every shift, every breaking update. Until next time, this is Toronto Maple Leaf News Network signing off. Leafs forever.